Hello there, welcome to the channel. My name is Wayne Rinovich, sort of founder of A Resilient Path. And so welcome to another video. I just wanted to go through quite a long video. This is a topic that's very in the media, it's in the forefront of everybody's mind. It's something that affects us all the time, and we're seeing a massive adoption of it, and that being AI, a wonderful thing, artificial intelligence. Depending on where you come from, how you work, how you analyze your life, it's going to change dramatically. We all use little bits and pieces of it now and again, and it's a monster topic because it really affects so many areas of our lives. And I think we're not going to see a lot of changes immediately in our lives, but then they are going to come all of a sudden and very quickly. And I think that's when it starts to change. And I started my journey in April 2023. I was lucky enough to get a sort of experimental beta version, or whatever you call it, of Bard, which is the forerunner of Gemini now, which is predominantly what I use. And it blew my mind. Some of the early things that I could do was quite incredible. And I think we've all seen it, whether you use ChatGPT, Bard, Anthropic's, Claude, and Perplexity, and all these kind of wonderful things, and it's going to affect so much of our lives. We're already seeing it. If you look at the legal system, medicine, government, economics, and in society in general, are going to be affected by it, and already starting to be affected by it. But I don't think we're seeing it personally in our lives to any effect yet. And this is why I've sort of titled this video "The Death of Purpose in an AI World," because this is something that's going to change, and when it changes, it'll change very, very quickly. I think, you've got to look at the broader perspective, not just the little prompt that you type in. Okay, this is how it affects our lives, and my role in this channel is to help awaken you that no single issue we have in our lives anymore, from a global perspective, or really is in isolation. Everything's linked. And AI is not standalone. We seem to think it is, but even AI itself is affected by other aspects, and this can change and delay it, or speed up the development of it. And I think everything's linked nowadays. We know this. Our comfortable world that we're living in is going to change, and we need to all wake up pretty quickly. Throughout history, we've had lots of disruptors that have come in from a technical perspective, and I'll talk about some of them in the video. But there's nothing that's going to disrupt us fast as AI, because it's not just about software. It's about an obsolescence of ourselves, from a well-worn path, a path to success, which we've all been groomed into from childhood through to our adult lives. And like I said, it's not about software. It's about us and our journey within it, primarily looking at our purpose. And I think that the main thing we need to get in, and this is where I say this, it's not just a standalone thing. We've been sold a lie of our journey in this life. Something that we were told was going to empower us through our schooling, through our education. And yet it's only ever seemed, if you look around, the wealthy seem to be getting incredibly wealthy, and the poor are not getting as far. So the system that we've got working for us hasn't worked for us. But all the indicators show that it should have. And I think the people that have looked at it, the elite, and I use this word sparingly because it's very conspiratorial, but the elite seem to be getting richer. And you can only look at the basics, right? They've created a system for us. It's a checklist for life, right, from cradle to grave. And we were led to believe that anybody can make it. You just got to dream it and you can make it. But something people don't realize is the deck was always stacked against us. And you can't beat them at your own game, because they are the house. And as any of you play cards or go into casinos, the house always wins. And I think you can the one area I want to start off is really a historical viewpoint in our agency of muscle dominance, right? Ended a long time ago. We're waking up now to the fact that our agency of intelligence is now going to be surpassed by an alien intelligence that we've created. And that's how I see AI. I don't see it as a tool, more as a genuine alien intelligence that we've created. And this time round, along our path of history, it's not just factory workers that are gonna suffer from disruption. Lawyers, doctors, accountants, coders, writers, middle management, project managers, and so anything like that, where you spend a lot of your time doing pretty repetitive things on a screen, is going to, be taken over by AI. We no longer serve the purpose of higher intelligence now. I think if you don't realize that yet, you're not using AI fast enough to realize that, or investigating it enough to understand that the strength in that we produced from our intelligence, the services, is now going to be surpassed by cheaper intelligence. So what does this mean for us? What is purpose, and why do we need a new one? And I think if you look at it from the basics, every morning, you and I, we all get up, we have a purpose in life, whatever that is. We get feet hit the ground, we get dressed. We begin our tedious journey to the office, or we stumble down the stairs to get coffee to go to our office at home. Over 100,000 years, over 100 years, we've naturally been groomed to work for our survival, right? This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so we basically, to survive, we have to earn money to pay for our expenses and to consume things, which we eat and use petrols and gas and things like that. This was our purpose, was to work for survive. And basically they've been linked together. The whole employment is your purpose in life. And this has been, and I'll explain but more now, has been created and with design, not by luck. Look, for example, if you go to a party, a work function or a networking function, and you meet somebody new. It doesn't matter what part of the world you are. Notice how long it takes for somebody to say, "What do you do for a living?" And that's sort of what the question that defines us. It's our CV. It's not who we are, but what we do that creates us and defines us. And I think several prominent people in the AI sphere throughout YouTube and wherever you look have said one thing that's really stuck out with me, that in the end, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, if the time frames are irrelevant right now, the only one skill is going to be required and will allow you to survive on this trajectory of change and disruption, and that is the entrepreneur. Okay, that is it. All career paths will flatten and the corporates will change. And one of the things I think you need to think of is AI can't feel pain. It can't love. It cannot, feel the thrill of a sunset or holding a child, a newborn baby. It cannot feel any joy or loyalty. It can't enjoy a moment where you're sitting around a fire with some friends enjoying a beer. And so being an entrepreneur, there is one area where AI will probably lag, and if not, never really conquer, and that's the human connection, right? The human connections industry or human connection enterprise or whatever you call it. It's where we will have to realign our purposes to jobs that connect human beings together one-to-one. And that's, I think, where, as an entrepreneur, you're going to see some of your best opportunities. I read this somewhere a long time ago, that it's not your CV that people remember at your funeral, it's how you made them feel. And that's kind of where we need to look at more often, is really how do we make people feel, because that's where the opportunities are going to lie. So how good is AI? Well, we've all seen the chatbots. I remember I was looking at a business loan 10 years ago on a bank, and a little bot popped up and asked me a few questions. I asked it some questions, and it didn't take me a while to realize I was no longer talking to a human. So it was a very small little kind of AI chat that was taught on the other calls or the website and the scripts on the website that it was taught to. It wasn't an AI per se. Then the large language models came along, and that was like pushing the accelerator to the floor. We've literally gone exponential. From the business perspective, we're sort of in an AI tech bubble at the moment, and it's a bit of a cross, similar to the dot-com. And we're also seeing an AI race, an arms race between countries and models that are developed by different countries. The dot-com era I lived through firsthand, and yes, a lot of companies lost money, but we also got incredible architecture, incredible tools. I mean, just look at Amazon, for God's sake. That's where it came out of, and I think that's where we're going to see most development. The only handbrake, and I'll mention this a few times, that I genuinely believe will slow AI development down and its adoption is energy, right? It's got a voracious need for energy. The data centers need a lot of electricity, a lot of energy, and there's talks of nuclear, small nuclear reactors, SMRs, coming into place, but we're still along. Those take several years. It's still a long place from getting there. So one of the powers is people, you and I, need to stop seeing AI as a tool, all right? Like a bit of software, a hammer, a bicycle, a tennis racket, a spreadsheet. We got to start seeing it as a PhD graduate who's just qualified, is on your phone, knows the whole internet, but has no life experience or know what it's there for. You have the most incredible student who knows everything in your pocket. You ask it the right way and it'll get you anything you need. Something I think we need to get to is AI is here. It's here to stay. The genie's out. We ain't putting it back in. And the scary thing for me is if you look at some of the developers, the comments of the developers, the senior people it's doubling every 5.5 months. And I think that is a massive, massive threat to show how fast the disruption is coming. And it's passing all the tests, the bar, the medical exams. It's just smashing those out the park. And I think we haven't quite got used to that yet. We've had both this throughout history. We've had the muscular and intellectual mastery in our lives, right? Then came the agricultural industrial revolutions, and we slowly lost our muscular advantage due to machines. And so everybody scurried into factories, and suddenly we were all factory workers. And then production lines came, and the automation of production lines and mass production. And suddenly we lost the all muscular advantage over machines, and all we had was our intelligence. That was our intellect. And through that we invented the resistor, and that went on to become the computer or the Mac. And then we invented this wonderful thing called the internet. Well, we've now gone and invented this alien intelligence that is smarter than us. And that to me is just bloody genius, isn't it? We've literally come full circle where we've almost, through our intellect and our development, have made ourselves almost redundant in our world. If you look at major companies, if you have this major alien internet, why would you hire a graduate on $50K a year when you can buy a $20 per month product that's the same intellect, never sleeps, self-corrects its own errors and mistakes, doesn't demand vacation days or pension or anything like that, doesn't need a salary, just a small cost that'll work itself out. And I always think about it, we genuinely are like Dr. Frankenstein, and we've surprised the hell out of ourselves by putting this thing together. Now the toes are starting to twitch of the monster, and we don't fully know what's going to happen next. So I think the biggest issue that threatens our purpose is, as I said, the traditional social treadmill, okay, the earn to consume thing. Right, so, a career path, a social contract, a checklist, the cradle to grave path, and the normal life, settling down, the rat race, keeping up with the Joneses, the corporate ladder, having it all, the American dream, the perfect life, or I simply when I grow up. These are all things that were part of this magnificent lie that we've been told. So how did it happen? Well, I'm sure maybe some of you know it, but a school system that we have throughout the West anyway is based on the Prussian model, and it's been in place from 1900. This was put into place The Prussians originally, I think it was 1850 or something like it, invented it to create workers for their factories, soldiers for war. It was a system where they built compliant citizens, which we are really, if you think about it, to live a prescribed life and not question authority. So the whole school system was fixed curriculum, periods with a ballad each end, the singing the national anthem, a certain set school day. So I've always used this word intentionally because it's not a nice word. And I said we've been groomed by our education to become hyper focused, specialized, which means we tend to go to one thing, one career. That's our path. Pick a major, pick a niche, get into it. When genetically and evolutionary wise, we have actually evolved into be generalists and solvers of many problems, and have many skills. But if you understand that our education system was designed to be a feeder system into our GDP model, this is what the giant Ponzi scheme of our economy. And the ambition was constantly to have people coming in at the bottom as a workforce, keep contributing, keep pushing in, and more importantly, keep consuming and keep taking out debt. And so AI is going to change a lot of that if it takes away the job, right, that you and I are designed or groomed to be. That one job we told at a young age, go and get it, right? We grade kids on memory recall, but AI does this perfectly. We punish kids for daydreaming or questioning ideals. AI can't do this, and this is our superpower. We educate the humanity out of humans so that they function in this prescribed system. It's a factory production line that is coming to an end, I believe. Younger generations, you look at them, they're already behind the parents and their grandparents at the same age, and they're not going to catch up. I'm sorry, they're just not. And they are awaking to this, and they want out. And I think this is where they realize it's a dead end. Right? They take on more student debt when they know that there's not going to be a job for them in 5 years. Why would you do that? So, I think it's important we get this right. We are natural generalists and polymaths. And I think schooling beats that out of us. It just does, so that we've become a cog in this employment machine. So how do we get through this? Well, I think the main thing is you understand that we're not specialized creatures. We are built, are one of the few species that are not specialized. Lions, hummingbirds, whale, elephants, they are specialized to special niches in a special region, in a special time zone, weather zone. And so when you and I need to explore multiple careers and multiple revenue streams, which help community and help other people grow, and that's where we'll find ourselves. We need to almost unschool yourself from what you've been groomed into as a career. I think you need to start to learn, but be fanatical in your learning now. You have to be a hyper learner, and AI is a great tool to become that. And definitely, I think we all need to become more contrarian and stop believing what the media says and what other people say about us, the politicians and all that kind of thing. So that being said, there is going to still be pushback from the traditional world when AI starts to come, because the wealthy, the bankers, they're the gatekeepers of the system because they designed it. And AI is a major disruptor of that. And it doesn't matter what the pace that it comes in, it's still going to affect all industries. And I genuinely believe this. So the bankers and the politicians and the elite will want the money to continue flowing upwards, because that's what it is. That's what this Ponzi scheme does. You make money and you pass it up through consumption and taxes and all those kind of things. And so they want the economy to keep doing what it's doing. And I think this is vital, that they won't want to kill the goose that lays the golden debt. And I'll come on to debt a bit more. I think those who believe that the linear path of knowledge accumulation and bragging rights on their CV will denounce AI's effectiveness, just as people said the internet would have no impact on the business world. Remember Paul Krugman, the Nobel Prize winning economist, who basically came out and said, and he later changed it. He also then said it had had the same effect as the fax machines, which in fact it didn't. AI's sheer journey of learning has been exponentially growing, and we've not prepared for the results. So when it hits the economy in the next 2-3 years, we are going to get a massive surprise. Just look at Uber. Uber disrupted the taxi industry. Airbnb disrupted the hotel and bed and breakfast industry in a massive way. If you look at Uber particularly, you had low skilled workers, low education, people who were able to join Uber, get a car, become independent and provide better than they could by doing other menial jobs. And so they were sucked in. And now that's threatened by AI. AI-controlled vehicles, driverless vehicles already in place. And we're seeing people hitting the streets and being angry at them. And in California, I think it was recently, they were burning some of the Waymos, which is their automated system. So, politicians and CEOs will tell you the story that they're going to upskill and reskill people, but they will watch with glee as their profit margins go up because their labor costs are going down. So, I think there will be a lot of mantra going around, it creates jobs, and this is not technically true because it will create new skill sets. But the sheer volume of mass redundancies that could, and I say could happen, some people say there will, is going to really, really hit us because nobody can absorb that kind of losses of people becoming homeless and jobless. The governments can't pay for everybody. So companies will continue with their hype. You'll see it all on all the companies. I call it the old philosophy of just add AI to everything. Everybody will get a $30 a month software product, an AI product that they're not going to use, but they can brag and say that the AI is streamlined and the shareholders, keep up. So it is in a bubble. If you look at the stock prices of some of the chipsets, it's a massive bubble, and all bubbles pop. But the underlying models, the underlying the architecture, the knowledge bases, the data centers, that this exponential growth in learning and in price and valuations is allowing the architecture to be built. So I genuinely think we're going to see the end of economic system. In 2006, I started studying macroeconomics, energy and environment, and within any related geopolitics. And I study this every day. And nothing matters more to the survival of our GDP system than energy. It fuels our economies from the ground, oil, gases, hydrocarbons, and then from the sky, from solar and wind, but also from the energy of our labor. That is something that's really driven it, and that's going to disappear. And the thing I realized is history is filled with cycles and patterns, and no civilizations are the same. They all collapse. This is a fact. And while I'm not wishing us to collapse, I think we are going to see some kind of massive collapse in some areas of our world. The original GDP model, which we use, was based on a report by Simon Kuznets in 1930s. He did it, and it was used at Bretton Woods just after World War II as a method for measuring growth and all the wealth of nations. Kuznets himself went on to spend many years trying to get people not to use it because it didn't account for the country's happiness or the country's welfare. It only measured growth and wealth. But the world, when we went ahead with it, and it became this measure and proved how addicted we are to growth and profit. And that has come now, if you look at it, probably to an end of the demise of our civilization. Because we're in a massive debt trap where most countries now are approaching 100% debt to their GDP. So they literally can't pay off the principal loans anymore. It's like just paying off the interest. I mean, Japan is at 235. The globe alone, the global economy is about 235% of debt into GDP ratio. This is unsustainable. Something has to give. And I found a great basic equation on the internet somewhere, and I can't credit the person, but it just said modern GDP consists of three things: debt growth, population growth, and productivity growth. And I know it's oversimplified, but it helps you to understand the three little legs of the little stool, and if they're all in balance, it works. But our debt is going up, our population is dropping, the working population is dropping. Our productivity should stay the same because AI will top up what's short. But the greatest scary thing is that if every person, every business paid off their debts tomorrow, if you and I, we paid off our mortgages, we paid off all our debts, all businesses did, the money flow would stop. So the money flow, the velocity of money through the system would literally grind to a halt because it needs debt to pump itself around. We still have, though, more and more money. Look at the debt deficits of the US and the UK and Europe and all those. More money's been loaned into existence, and that's what debt is. That's what money printing is. It's money gets loaned into existence. And so we have to somehow get unaddicted to this growth and this free money. And like all addicts, you can't taper. All right, I don't believe you can taper this down. You've got to have some kind of cold turkey where most of our debts get written off, which means most of our wealth, your pensions will go down for 60, 70%, maybe, whatever. This is why I always advocate to anybody on the channel, learn about money, learn about debt, learn about how money is created, learn about economic cycles. Don't have to go into detail, but understand that fiat currency, the dollar in your pocket, the pound in your pocket, is paper money. It's just a promise, right? The government promises to the bearer that its value, that the value is there. And the more you print of it, the more the value, the purchasing power goes down. And so the money flow has to be kept going to keep this going and not have a seize up in the system. So AI arriving and more people becoming jobless, and therefore more people not earning money, more people on consuming, becomes a real problem because those people can't borrow money anymore. So we can't create more money through that mechanism. So they stop spending money. I mean, what happens if nobody can afford iPhones anymore? What happens to Apple? What happens? The manufacturers, the suppliers. Our GDP model is so fragile now because of the high debt and with AI that it could definitely collapse. So why is this a problem? Well, we've overextended economies that measure themselves incorrectly. They're all massively in debt. They cannot pay it off. Our lives got better off the back of 70 years of cheap money and wealth-driven opportunities. We all did well, even though we might not think we've done well. Over 70 years, we've done incredibly well. It's built by bankers who will try everything to keep the money flowing upward instead of downward. This is something that's vital to remember. And AO over time is going to end the system because that's what it's there to do, because it's going to disrupt our jobs, and our jobs are our purpose. So that's the link between the two. So I think there are two possible kind of economic worlds that might come out of an AI race, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there's what I call digital feudalism, and typically this is where a few companies become so massive and they achieve the AGI arms race and the vast massive amount of data and data compute and energy, and they effectively become bigger than governments and are able to then start paying people UBI, universal basic income, which will keep everybody on a survival kind of level, which is not ideal. You'll never become wealthy on it because you'll be a consumer again, not a citizen. And these people will control governments if government's still around. Okay, they will be super rich countries, bigger than they are today by any means. The other thing that could happen is nation-state protectionism. So each country will develop their own AI system. They will ring fence it and the internet. The governments will own it. They'll own the models, the data, the architecture, and they'll pour state funds in, or my tax money, and into the security of the AI systems. And they want to keep it secure. So because our society was built on a foundation of consumerism, think about that, right? The Ponzi scheme, it's consuming that keeps us going. We're already at risk of several fronts with massive debts and geopolitical conflicts, supply chain problems, but now we've added the great disruptor to it. We've invented this alien and we've inserted it into all the bloody problems we have. So I genuinely think we're going to have some kind of reset in the future. So what can an individual do? Well, you can educate yourself on the monetary system. I've said this before. I know it seems complex and boring, but it has been designed that way so that you have to trust the people who are in power. And this is how they catch you. Okay. Understand debt and why everybody loves it, why it's so easy to get compared to good capital. Learn what makes your financial advisor, what he's doing with your money. Make sure that they're on your side or they're a partner and not just in it for the commission. Start as soon as you can. Even with a side hustle, if you have a 9-to-5 job, develop a side hustle as a hobby first, then see if you can make money from it. But make sure it's a skill and it's something different to what you already do. And then importantly, if it can be something that's done in the community and can help people, I think you're already on the right track, because I remember I said that human connections industry is where we're going to get. So, AI can be a dystopian world. You'll hear a lot of people who call it a utopian world. So will we have a Nirvana kind of life? And I think the only certainty we have here is massive change and short-term uncertainty. Not only because AI, but also because it's happening amid geopolitical shifts and creaking economic bubble that cannot expand much further. I know it's tough to hear, but with all the issues befalling us at the moment, throw in AI revolution and it doesn't look like a prosperous one for humanity as opportunities dry up. So, is it all over? Well, I don't think so. I genuinely don't. I think knowledge is power and will help you and I change and manage ourselves in ways that we can ride out the storm. Diversity is imperative. Diversity of your skills, diversity of your wealth, your knowledge, and your mindset. All of these things will stand you in good stead, and they're things you're not taught. And that's what I try and do as a coach, as a resilience coach, and also what I try and do on this channel, and will be doing more of. It's in its early days, so a lot more to come. But it's clear what the AIs are saying. The experts are saying that we're going to need some kind of UBI help, whether it's from the government, which I think is doubtful because they're not going to have much money. Governments don't have money; they collect taxes and that's it. AI companies, and that's a possibility, or AI itself, which I kind of like because we could use cryptos to charge micro amounts between the AI agents that do everything in the background for us, and so they would go into some kind of sovereign wealth fund that pays everybody a percentage. I think the big thing you need to remember, and this is a genuine belief, is that we will see quite a lot of drop in expenses in life, because if humanoid robots are doing everything, or AI is doing everything, creating money for us, the cost of things that you and I consume will come down. So food production will come down. All these kind of things will come down. So you won't need as much to live. But in that saying, a lot of the options for you to grow a business will be cut off because AI can do it. So there's a lot of things that, I'll be honest, I don't know. Nobody seems to know the way the solution and how AUBI will work. And I think that leads me to my biggest concern is the psychological crash, where people just can't see a way out and end up choosing to take their own lives, or they resign themselves to existing with sort of VR headsets, on a couch where they just stay obese and become intellectually dead. That's a bleak prospect, for me. I rather would want to be on the extreme of that and go, all right, I'd rather go and work for free inside and help other people than do that. But I think we'll see how our economies can survive with this, especially because the consumer treadmills will freeze up, and so we won't have money coming into the Ponzi scheme. So what's in store from us from the government? I think they're going to cling to power. They're going to do everything they can, and they're going to bring in population control. We're already seeing mass surveillance and CCTVs, and you hear of spying on their citizens, and digital IDs will eventually come in, as long with central bank digital currencies. These will be linked to a wallet, which are credit score used. And if you fail to qualify with a credit score like they do in China now, you lose your your UBI. So they're going to try, whether they survive 10, 20, 30 years as a mechanism of control rather than AI. I doubt. I don't think so. But we're an incredible species. I think we've survived all sorts of challenges in 300,000 years we've been Homo sapiens. We will survive this, undoubtedly. I genuinely think we will have a better quality of life. We just won't be wealthy in financial terms. But, so the rise of the resilient human, is something I'd written in an article. I'm sorry, I didn't even say this. This is really about a longer form article I wrote to my Substack. The link will be in the description anyway, if you want to go and read it. I think it's time we grasp that the normal is gone, right? COVID showed us that, and our normal life has changed. But also the world we were born into, there's 5 generations alive by my estimates, from what's a Gen Alpha through to the silent generation who are now passing on. The world we were all 5 generations were born into is gone. It's beyond coming back. And anybody who holds on to that belief that it'll all come back now, that's the first hurdle to face with resilience. So yes, it's doom and gloom. I know that it has to be. It's a wake up. But I want you to understand that as a generalist, you're evolved into surviving multiple problem solvers that we are. I think the old social contract, you hear the term social contract, where you're educated and then you join adulthood and you become social, responsible into your citizenry, and your government will reward you for votes with security and hospitals and things. That kind of thing I think is going to change. A lot to do with the next generations on seeing a future that we saw. Their future's very grey. A lot of us people that are in our 50s and 60s and 70s are looking back more than forward. Well, young kids are looking forward and they're not seeing a way out yet, and that'll come. I genuinely feel for that. I think becoming a resilient human is one way to ease the pain, because it's a proactive step. You're not reacting, you're being proactive, right? Resilient human is where we move away from this hyper specialization which you've been groomed to perform this wheel in this cog. And I'm repeating things, but I hope to just make it all make sense. We are generalists, and we need to go back to being that. And I think the successful human in the future will be the most adaptable generalist in the AI world. Somebody can develop, our own agency. Just take control of your life. You control what you do, you control how you feel, you control what happens as best you can, as opposed to people who right now are going to wait for somebody to come rescue them. The wealthy people, and I hate saying it that way, but people who are expecting the government or AI to bail them out are going to really suffer. Because resilience isn't about being tougher than other people. It's about bouncing back when there's tough times and when you're getting floored and ground by things, and you get up every time. That's what resilience is. It's not about being tough or anything like that. And I think so. Again, I would repeat this: is AI really a short-term threat? Well, I think things that will delay it could be adoption rate. It's slower on the uptake than I think people thought. Regulation, governments can regulate it and slow it back a bit, freeze money, stop money going into it. Regionalization, so you'd have that, what I call that protectionism. So the UK develops its own, America, China, and so you can slow it and control it a bit more. Energy constraints, genuinely, it siphons up energy like nothing we've had before. And we're also already, if you look at the cost of living around the world, energy is high up there. So there's a fine line to balance there. And if we have an economic collapse, it will slow it down. So that's early part of the talk, the video. I said everything's linked. One issue is not the problem. There's several, and one moves, one twitches, the others all feel it. So I think the solution is to look inward, and that's what I teach with the resilience is, look in, get your ass off the couch, get out into the real world, and start learning about AI, about money, about economic systems and patterns, and about new skills. Why? I promise you, once you realize this, and then you diversify how you save and how everybody banks with one bank. No, have 2 or 3 banks. It's a hassle. But if one bank collapses and the other 2 don't, you're spreading that. Everybody thinks, buy a house for an investment. Well, look at other things. Look at gold. Look at Bitcoin. Look at or anything else that is outside of the asset class that you think we're in at the moment. We've been taught, save, invest in a little index tracker, give it to a financial advisor who will make magic stuff happen. Well, question that and don't believe them. Question them, and if they come back to you and say, oh, well, it's complex, I won't bore you. No, bore me. I want to know. Explain it in detail what you're going to do with my money. So I think, the future is incredibly hard to call here. But I still believe, I have great hope and positive belief that humanity will see off this disruption and in the long term be better off. Our children are going to be way better off than stress-wise, because they will be doing jobs that actually help them and fulfill them, and they'll be happy. So yeah, I think I'm trying to think. There's not a lot of other things I wanted to get off from the article, but please, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and a subscribe. It informs Google that people like it, and then they put it in front of other people, and I can get more reach, because that's what I'm here for. I want to help people, just to open their eyes and learn, be curious and learn. So yeah, don't forget you can read the full thing on my Substack, and I'll put the link. Thank you for watching. I wish you peace and great beer.